John Corla, Ireland has a deeply felt understanding of the desire of people for the recognition of their own place, their culture and existence. 800 years of occupation and a great deal of repression did nothing to quell the Irish desire for freedom, for self-determination, for self-rule and the international recognition of our civil rights. The Irish state, as it is today, is often used as an international reference as to how people with different cultures, ethnicity, religion, history can live in the same place, can live on the same land. The history of Palestine is not remote from the history of Ireland. Principally, it recognises the desire of people to live freely in their own state. The ownership of land and the ability of peoples to live peacefully on that land is at the heart of the Palestinian question. The question of who should reside in that space, who can or should claim ownership of that land, has been an international question, actually dating back to 1917 with the Balfour Declaration. That favoured the establishment of a Jewish national home in Palestine, an area that had been under Ottoman rule for centuries and was placed under British stewardship and governorship in 1920 after a League of Nations mandate. Post the Second World War, Jewish migration to Palestine was encouraged and supported, as was the move to the recognition of a State of Israel in what was considered to be the Jewish biblical home. This was in spite of the significant Arab population existing in the region. This culminated in 1947 with the United Nations Partition Resolution to divide Britain's former Palestinian mandate into Jewish and Arab states. The State of Israel declared its establishment on the 14th of May 1948, the eve of the British termination of the mandate. And that termination of the mandate subsequently led to the First Arab-Israeli War. Subsequent 1949 armistice agreements established Israel's borders over most of the former Mandate territory. A further 1967 conflict, the Six-Day War, saw Israel occupying the West Bank and Gaza Strip, and since establishing further settlement there. Israel has normalised relationships in recent times with some of its Arab neighbours, but the Arab and the Israeli-Palestinian conflict has been an ongoing and seemingly intractable problem. The peace initiatives put forward by both Arabs and the US governments over recent decades have failed to advance any recognition of a two-state solution or deal with the issues of the occupied territories. The military muscle provided to Israel, principally by the US, has allowed it to exert a strong military presence in the region, and in so doing it has failed too to deal with progressing the issues of the Palestinian question and the Palestinian homeland. In fact, Israel has largely carried out discrimination of the Palestinian enclaves in the Gaza Strip and occupied territories, and this has only served to increase hardline Arab resistance to the State of Israel. The hardline positions taken by the Israeli government in terms of its forcing its borders and its internal security has allowed Hamas claim political support for their ongoing campaign of border and rocket attacks into Israel. The degree to which this activity has the support of the wider Palestinian people is impossible to judge. But the actions of fundamentalist Islamic people within Hamas and the Palestinian movement is not, which culminated in the barbarism of December 7th with the indiscriminate murder of Israeli settlers and the taking of hostages who remain prisoners of Hamas. The main thrust of this activity was to develop a regional war, drawing in other Arab states in an Arab coalition. The response of Prime Minister Netanyahu and his right-wing government to invade Gaza with the stated purpose of annihilating Hamas and dismantling their war machine is also a mission that only serves to strengthen Arab resistance. The prosecuting of this war has been the indiscriminate bombing of population centres and refugees in pursuit of Hamas militants. The carnage and destruction is vast, and it will take years and perhaps decades to rebuild the infrastructure. The idea that the Palestinian people will forget or forgive in a similar timeline is uncertain, to say the least. The human toll can never be justified in terms of stated war efforts. We in Ireland know the destruction of civil conflict. We know the enduring hurt and the harm that violence causes. We know that ultimately peace cannot be achieved until warring sides agree to sit down, agree to seek a compromise solution. Israel has fought long and hard for recognition as an independent state. The idea that the Palestinian people should not be allowed the same rights is preposterous. That it is the State of Israel which opposes such rights is even more confounding given the genesis of its own state. The fact of the matter is, Israel's security cannot be assured in the future without arriving at a peaceful settlement with the Palestinian majority and its people. But this also requires a recognition from those allied to Islamic fundamentalism of the right of the State of Israel to exist too. What must be agreed is the recognition of a Palestinian state and its borders, also the rights of its people to have free movement throughout that country and to be given access to other countries where diplomatic relations recognise the rights of such people to travel in and out. The recent actions of Ireland, Spain and Norway to recognise the state of Palestine sends a strong message to the international community to back up previous resolutions of the UN General Assembly. Just as it is unacceptable that some in the Arab world would wish to see solely the destruction of Israel, so too it is unacceptable for the present Israeli government to adopt a position of no recognition for a future Palestinian state. War begets war, violence begets violence. The people who suffer most are the general population. They are the ones with the least power, the least influence, the least protection from smart bombs and military might. It is said you cannot kill an idea unless you kill a people. The willful destruction that those in hardline Arab positions and in hardline Israeli government wish to pursue, they cannot be condoned, they cannot be understood, and they must not be supported. The slaughter of innocent men, women and children on October the 7th can never be justified. Neither can the military response of the Israeli government, which at this point has gone far beyond anything to do with the actions of that infamous day. The Irish people, Ceann Comhairle, have travelled the road of being subject to imperialism, to colonialism and state-enforced discrimination. Despite all of that, our country has arrived at a place of recognition that for peace to be created, fostered and endure, the recognition of individual rights and individual histories must be at the forefront of any possible settlement. Despite culture, language, religion, skin tone, the truth of the Palestinian question is that it is a human conflict. Only human recognition, only human relations and human action can solve it. It is quite obvious that the present actors leading the war on both sides are very unlikely to be the people who will build the peace. That possibly remains a job for the international community at large that they can achieve, and Ireland must remain at the vanguard of those efforts.